Let's take you to the story now. Johannesburg and Tshwane taps are running dry and load shedding, aging infrastructure, the heat and high consumption are being blamed. Residents in the eastern and northern parts of Tshwane have been without water since Monday, and this outage affects residents across the city as the supply travels through Pretoria East to reach other parts of the city. Parts of Johannesburg have also been experiencing intermittent supply. For more on this story now, we take you to news reporter Nozintombi Miya, who's joining us now for an update. Nozi, thank you so much for your time. So, frustrated residents in parts of Johannesburg as well as Tshwane, what measures have the water utilities of the two metros taken to assist with the shortages?
Thank you so much, Mkolisi. It is a scorcher out here in Tshwane, and this is what we've been seeing over the past weekend: high temperatures and very little water. And the problem really became exacerbated from about the 19th of January when Rand Water started implementing water restrictions because the water reservoir levels were quite low. And to speak to me a little bit more about the areas affected in Tshwane and what contingency measures or measures are being put into place, I've got here with me the MC for utilities here in Tshwane, who's really been quite on the ball about this issue, Mr. Daryl Johnson. Daryl, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a scorcher since about the 19th.
Absolutely. We're really suffering with the very high temperatures, which are increasing demand that's required on the systems, and that is dropping reservoir levels. And coupled with that, the flow limitations that Rand Water have implemented really are causing us severe headaches and nightmares.
Daryl, why did Rand Water implement water restrictions?
Their indication was that we were exceeding the usage agreed to in October when we last experienced a similar situation, and that we had exceeded those and they needed us to reduce our daily consumption. We have worked to do that by adhering to those limitations, but the problem is that it's a very delicate system, and at the end of the day we start running out of water in various places, and we need to balance that and just work to that to be able to provide water to our residents.
Exceeding your usage, this is what they're saying, right? How are your residents using the water? Which areas are the areas that are using the most water?
Well, the problem is all over is where we have these problems. There's high demands from Soshanguve through to the east. And really, the thing is with water, it's unlike electricity. When we're under load shedding, your electricity's off, you can't use it, you don't have an option. Unfortunately, with water, the way the systems are laid out, typically people in lower lying areas don't tend to experience the same problems as those in higher lying areas. And so they continue to use water. And unfortunately, we have people that use water to clean off driveways, patios, all manner of unnecessary things. And we need the residents to really work together to help the entire community, but we don't get that kind of cooperation.
How is it that Tshwane is struggling with the water issue? Aside from Rand Water assisting, aside from Rand Water coming in and putting in water restrictions, what has caused this from the onset? Why does Tshwane not have alternatives regardless of the reservoirs?
Well, we do have our own sources. We're actually in a unique position compared to Johannesburg or Ekurhuleni, where we actually produce our own water from Rietvlei Dam, from Roodeplaat Dam, boreholes, fountains, etc. But unfortunately, it's nowhere near enough to just be able to supply the entire city. So we are dependent on Rand Water. But when we are faced with these restrictions, and obviously this is contributed to as well by the fact that we've got people coming into the city on an ongoing basis, placing demands on the water requirements, but we have a set limitation from Rand Water, and that's where we then find imbalances.
Relying on Rand Water is not a long-term solution. What long-term solution are you looking at? You have the dams that you've spoken about. What other solutions, tangible, real solutions, are you going to put in place?
So we are already busy with programs. It's part of our water master plan, is to actually increase the capacities at those own sources. Currently, they should be able to produce about 40% of our current requirement. They're not producing at that level because of pollution issues within systems and so forth. But we have the potential to grow that to about 80% of our current water usage. But bear in mind, that's current. With continued population growth, etc., you can't necessarily necessarily keep to that. So we'll always be dependent on Rand Water, but we are working on ways to be able to augment our existing sources so that we can improve the supply from our own side.
Communication is obviously a problem. The city and residents are not communicating. How are you going to improve on that?
Well, we're utilizing all of our channels, our social media channels and so forth. But you still find in talking to people, you get some people that are completely unaware of the water situation that we're facing. And therefore, that's why you get people continuing to use it. So I don't know, short of sending vehicles out with PA systems into areas, I just don't know, because you should be able to get far greater reach using social media and yourselves, the media, to communicate. But it's whether it's getting the penetration or not.
Daryl, before I let you go, old school might just be the way to go. Which areas have been the most affected?
So Soshanguve Block L in particular has been a problem. We have got high demand in that area, and we aren't able to get water up into the tower to provide the pressure required to deliver to that high-lying area. We've also had problems over the last period of time in Waterkloof, Monument Park, Iladus Park, Moraletta Park, out towards the hills and Mooikloof, where we are. It's a continuous juggling act with our technical teams on the ground, shifting supply, closing off here, opening there, getting Rand Water to assist by changing their provision of where they're supplying water from, and that's just how we're trying to manage the system as best as possible.
Super quickly, before I let you go again, proper this time, advice to residents about not using so much water.
Absolutely. Let's make sure we're not using water unnecessarily to wash off paving, roads, not washing cars. It's not necessary for us to wash our cars. It might not look pretty, but still, don't flush toilets unless you absolutely need to. Take showers with a bucket, collect water there, and really just find measures that you can use as little water as possible, just like Cape Town had to do a number of years ago.
Daryl Johnson, thanks so much. I'm going to leave it there. And Mxolisi, the issue of the water restrictions here in Tshwane and the low water level is an issue that is being felt across large parts of Gauteng. We know that Johannesburg is also suffering a similar fate, with quite a number of areas, especially West Rand areas, struggling to get access to water. It's a broader conversation that the province needs to have around water consumption, water restrictions, but also an issue that Rand Water and all the water boards and water organization need to come to the party and find long-lasting solutions on how to get consistent water flow, regardless of whether the temperatures are high, we have high rainfall. A better system is needed to be put in place. Mxolisi.
Right, Nozintombi Miya on the pulse of that story, talking to us about the water shortages in Tshwane and Johannesburg. Thanks very much indeed for that.